If you ever wanted a signal or a symbol that the system is dying, boy, did you get one yesterday.
The Dow right now is over. The Dow is over $50,000. I don't know why you're laughing. You're a great stock trader, as I hear, Raskin. The Dow is over 50,000 right now. The S&P at almost 7,000. And the NASDAQ smashing records.
This is the Attorney General of the United States after being asked why she has not indicted any of Epstein's clients. That was not AI. This actually happened. And it actually got worse. You laughing and the Dow's over 50K? Are you kidding me? After seeing that, you can't be surprised when you see this. Global uncertainty has gone parabolic. They're telling us what's coming. And believe it or not, it's a bullish confirmation for Bitcoin. And also confirmation that Ron Paul was right about everything. Is America going bankrupt? Well, moral bankruptcy has been achieved, so if you ask me, that is likely a leading indicator. But we'll see what the legend Ron Paul has to say about it. Strap in because we got a massive show today. Thunder!
And it was so clear cut to me that bad stuff is going to happen from this. And we're approaching that time when bad stuff will really be happening to us because you just can't print money and lie to the people forever. It's all based on a lie, and it's fraud. It's counterfeit money.
It's all based on lies. And speaking of lies, Pam Bondi's career looks to be coming to an end. During yesterday's House Judiciary Committee session, Pam Bondi got absolutely slammed from both sides, and every response from her made it look even worse. Ted Lieu called for her resignation on live TV, and the odds of Pam Bondi getting shit-canned before 2027 nearly doubled on Polymarket. Gee, I wonder why.
There was one redaction out of
he's
over
listed as a co-conspirator.
4,700, and we invited you in. This guy has Trump derangement syndrome. He needs to get, you're a failed politician.
Yeah.
I find it interesting that she keeps going after President Trump, the greatest president in American history. And if they could maintain their composure. You don't tell me.
Yeah, I did tell you because we saw what you did in the Senate.
You're a lawyer, not even a lawyer.
Committee will be in.
With obsessed with Donald Trump, you have Trump derangement syndrome. All of you who participated in those impeachment hearings against Donald Trump, you all should be apologizing. You sit here and you attack the president, and I am not going to have it. I'm not going to put up with it. The Dow is over 50,000 right now. The S&P at almost 7,000. And the NASDAQ smashing records. Americans' 401ks and retirement savings are booming. That's what we should be talking about.
Trying to intimidate and punish these ladies for coming forward.
When you see how sick and depraved these people are, and you read those things and you see them act this way, it is indicative of the lack of integrity, of money spilling into society. But thank God we have Bitcoin, and we still have some people like Thomas Massey and Ron Paul.
Are you able to track who in your organization made this massive failure and released the victims' names? Are you able to track who it was that obscured Les Wexner's name as a co-conspirator in an FBI document? Do you have that kind of accountability?
I believe Wexner's name was listed more than 4,000 times.
Yeah, I already told you that. This is where he's listed as a co-conspirator.
Can I finish my answer? Come on, let me finish my answer. We corrected that within 40 minutes. He was already, you're acting like everybody's trying to cover up Wexner's name.
Reclaiming my time.
I'm going to answer this question.
Reclaiming my time.
He was,
Mr. Chairman.
This is how this works.
Can I have my time back? Mr. Chairman.
The gentlelady can give her answer. The time belongs to the gentleman from
All right, I'm reclaiming my
Can I give
time.
my answer?
So
Yes.
I'm going to put the language of the bill up on the screen.
Chairman,
because
may
I
I
have
give my
another
answer
question.
on that?
Here's
It's a political
the question.
joke, and I need to give my answer on that.
We'll let the Attorney General respond, and then the gentleman can move to his next
Chairman,
question.
it's my time.
Within 40
Chairman.
minutes, you asked me a question.
You can give
Within
me-
40 minutes, Wexner's name was added back.
Within 40 minutes of me catching you red-handed.
There was one redaction out
Where
of
he's
over
listed as a
4,700,
Okay.
and we invited you
Show the
in.
video.
This guy has Trump derangement syndrome. He needs to get, you're a failed
He won.
politician.
Gentlemen,
You need to
I
get
want
on
you to
the
watch the
matter.
video.
Mr. Chairman, please restore his time and remind the witness of the
himself.
rules here.
There is no credible information. None. If there were, I would bring the case yesterday that he trafficked to other individuals.
Is that your position as well?
My position is any victim who comes forward, of course, we would love to hear from them. 1-800-CALL-FBI. Did you ask Merrick Garland that the last 4 years? Did you talk about Epstein?
I'm
at
reclaiming
all
my
the
time.
last
I'm
4
glad you're
years?
asking about Merrick Garland.
You don't get to reclaim
because this
time when
is
you don't-
bigger than
when you can't-
Watergate.
when I don't answer a question the way
This
you
goes
want.
over 4 administrations. You don't have to go back to Biden. Let's go back to Obama. Let's go back to George Bush. This cover-up spans decades, and you are responsible for this portion of it.
And that's
Now,
where the
I want to
most
know at what
transparent-
point did the FBI and the DOJ decide that Lex Wessner was not a co-conspirator? Because our Epstein Files Transparency Act requires you, please put it
Time is
back on
up.
the screen, please, to release the internal decision about whether to prosecute him or not, and it's not in the files, and it's not in the files for any of these other men.
Time of the gentleman has
Which,
expired.
may she answer?
And he's a hypocrite because he voted against the ban that we were talking about on deep fake AI porn. Only 2 people voted against it, and you were one of them, hypocrite.
See, as Ron Paul said, it's all based on lies. It's counterfeit. And thus we have counterfeit leaders and politicians and the rest feeding off, stealing and looting from everyone else. Just like the money they're debasing, they're also debasing morality.
But I also recognize that the world is imperfect, and we're not going to see a perfect society. You just have to sort of help guide it in certain directions. And the freer we are, I think, the better. The more tyranny we have, the worse off we are. But it takes a moral understanding of what our relationship should be with the government, and that's where it gets touchy because people want to use it. The few want to own control. The deep state, whoever they are, they're the ones who, controls the politicking and all the legislation and the spending. But that's coming to an end. We're broke, and everybody's starting to know it. Even though we knew it was broke, and that was my discovery in 1970. When Bretton Woods broke down, and 1970, and when Nixon gave that speech, I knew that, but it took a long time. We were so wealthy, we were spoiled, and we could defy the principles of liberty and decency because we were so rich, and still are rich. We're still consuming, but we're not producing. I mean, we have a moral crisis, but that's where I'm optimistic because I think that number is growing, and I think there are a lot of young people looking at it differently. I think our technology is helpful. I think people who have interesting talk shows and get good views off and share some of these views makes it different. And I think there's some very good things going on. And I also accept the idea that perfection is not achievable, but it is definitely available to us to go in a certain direction. And we've been, as a country, going in the wrong direction for a long time.
You know what? If you can judge a man by his enemies, there may be none greater than Ron Paul.
If you can judge a man by his enemies, former Congressman Ron Paul of Texas, the long-retired obstetrician, the 90-year-old 3-time member of Congress and 3-time presidential candidate, is a very, very good man because he has the best enemies. Here, for example, is an exchange between Jeffrey Epstein and one of his friends. This takes place in early 2012, when there is conversation, as there pretty much always is in the United States for the last 30 years, about when and how we should bomb Iran. And Epstein's friend writes to him this: during an election year, everyone in Congress is falling all over themselves to show support for Israel, except for that dinkus Ron Paul. Ron Paul! Yeah, Jeffrey Epstein and his friends did not like Ron Paul. But what's not to like about Ron Paul? Ron Paul is, and you're going to see him speak in just a moment, probably one of the most manifestly decent men ever to serve in the Congress. Married to the same woman since 1957, beloved by his children, grandchildren, now great-grandchildren. A man who spends his spare time riding his bicycle and tending roses. A person who has articulated the principles of nonviolence throughout his entire public career. A guy who thinks that it is not just unfashionable, but totally immoral to judge people on the basis of their blood. Who thinks racism and anti-Semitism are anti-Christian. Guy's never said a single thing against a group, ever, not once. In short, a thoroughly decent man of principle. Why does everyone hate Ron Paul? Well, there are a couple reasons. In fact, I personally discovered this way back in 2007 when I covered Ron Paul. He was running for president that year. I'd actually voted for him 19 years before in 1988 in college for president. I knew nothing about him, but it seemed like an amusing protest vote. He was running as a libertarian then. But fast forward to 2007, he was running in the 2008 presidential campaign, and I thought, this guy looks kind of interesting. I really didn't know much about him, so I went on the road with him for a week, and I wrote a long profile for the New Republic magazine. I was working in television, but I thought it was kind of interesting to write magazine stories again, so I did. And I learned a couple of things about Ron Paul. One, as noted, enormously nice person, gentle temperament, decent, not flashy, not greedy, not dishonest. Two, I learned that Ron Paul is very sincere about monetary policy. Paul would give these stem winders about fiat currency and the gold standard and why the Fed was a scam, and he drew enormous crowds, at least relative to the topic. Now, at the time, again, this was 19 years ago, no one was talking about the gold standard in public and getting anything but laughter and jeers. You were a gold bug. You were insane. You were a moron. Gold wasn't even a topic. If you could check the transcripts from CNBC for the year 2007, gold probably not even mentioned. It seemed crazy to care about monetary policy then. But Ron Paul did, and his audiences responded. That was the first thing I noticed. I had no idea this was a resident issue. I knew nothing about it, so I assumed, since I lived in Washington and was pretty well informed, that no one else knew anything about it either, but I was wrong. Tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, in the end, millions of Americans were thinking about the stability and the strength of the U.S. dollar.
In the Fed, sound money, Ron Paul was the voice in the wilderness for decades, preparing the way for the separation of money and state. Ron Paul is sound money John the Baptist. And while Bitcoin is sitting around previous all-time highs, there's a lot of things telling us we're probably not going to be here very long. Stack them while you can, because it's not if, it's when the next massive move is coming. We're about to bring it home. But before we do, look at our likes.
3 or 4 times, maybe.
I gotta pump those numbers up. Those are rookie numbers in this racket.
If you're not running a node, you're not verifying your own transactions. You're relying on someone else. The Bitcoin Way will get your coins off the exchanges into cold storage and guide you step by step in setting up your own node. It's hands-on training from the masters of self-custody. And ask yourself, are they listening to your calls? Tracking every tap? The Bitcoin Way will help you choose a privacy phone, install a privacy operating system, and regain your digital sovereignty. And if you need location insurance, a Plan B residency is within reach. They'll guide you step by step into a Bitcoin-friendly community where sovereign individuals thrive. Visit thebitcoinway.com and book your free 30-minute consultation using that link in the show notes. Today's show is brought to you by Ledn. If you ever need cash but don't want to sell your Bitcoin, Ledn makes that possible. They're the global leader in Bitcoin-backed lending with $10 billion plus in loans issued since 2018 and a perfect record of protecting client assets. Why is a Ledn loan different? With custodied loans, your collateral is not lent out to generate yield. There are no credit checks. You can get funds in as little as 6 hours, no monthly payments, and you can repay anytime with 0 penalties. Plus, they publish proof of reserves every 6 months, verified by a top accounting firm. Ledn gives Bitcoin holders a secure, transparent way to unlock liquidity without selling. Learn more at learn.ledn.io/simply. That's learn.ledn.io/simply.
Next question. This is our Reagan moment. It was 44 years ago at a time like this. President's in office, the media's giving him hell. He's shaking up the establishment. He inherits a mess. People don't like what he's doing. There's some gauzy history about how easy it was. French can speak to it better than I. It wasn't easy. And this is that moment. This is that hinge point in history that we see every couple of generations. Doesn't make it going to be easy. Doesn't mean that every decision's obvious, but it's super exciting. So that's my thank you to the Reagan folks. And what George would say is the broad conduct of government policy doesn't have to be perfect. In fact, even in the heyday of the Reagan era, it never was. Government policy just can't be too destructive. And if we can achieve that, the U.S. economy will be in great shape. The problem over the course of the last several years is government policy has been too destructive. Too destructive to banks, too destructive to individual liberty in the post-COVID era, too destructive of technology and innovation. If over the course of the next few years we can just try to arrest most of that destruction, what we used to describe in economics as the micro foundations of macroeconomics, this has nothing to do with the brilliant conduct of monetary policy or fiscal policy. The micro foundations are what matter. And what is that a fancy word for? The culture of this country. The willingness to work hard, take a risk, have it fail, and try again. Everybody, no matter where you're from, there's no stigma associated with your station. You try to make it, and other people don't say, well, you're too big for your britches. This is not an American birthright, but it's why the U.S. economy has chronically outperformed from 1946 until this very day. But if we do harm to those micro foundations, we decide we just want to try to hold on to what we've got. We let some of the things that are most important, like stable prices, eat at the conscience and the integrity of an opportunity society. Well, we're going to be no better off than a lot of these countries with whom we're trading with. That's why this moment is such an important moment. That's why getting policy right at this inflection point, like we haven't seen in 44 years, is huge. And if we do that, the 21st century will be our century. I'm not so worried about the other guys on the other side of the ocean. They're not doing a lot to motivate their technology sector. They are not freeing their people to create and innovate. A lot of them want to come to the U.S. where they can do their best work. If we can focus on what we do best and try to copy someone else's 5-year plan, we're going to be just fine. So while this might seem like a scary moment for a lot of us hanging around government and the private sector, this is the best opportunity we've had, and I have a parochial American view. If the U.S. does well and can get through this inflection point as well as President Reagan did 44 years ago, our allies are going to love us like never before, and our adversaries will be scared of us. The essential thing is that we grow during this period, and if we do, that'll take care of a lot of the problems that are subjecting us and causing us to think that this is a period of malaise.
The very end of what the next Fed chair, Kevin Warsh, in his statement said there was key. What's vital is that we grow during this period. That, quote, economic growth actually means growth of the money supply and debasement in order to inflate the debt away and lower the ever-mounting interest payments on said debt. They're going to be implementing yield curve control because, while this is happening, global uncertainty is skyrocketing, meaning faith and trust in all of it is going bye-bye. And all of this is bullish for Bitcoin. Counterfeit money, counterfeit leaders and politicians and appointees, people waking up and discovering the truth. Ron Paul was right then and he's right today, and the root of the issue is the money. If you don't fix the money, there is no the world. It just gets sicker from here. Embrace the bright orange future and the peaceful revolution. Carry the torch of liberty like the Ron Pauls and the Masseys. And oh yeah, in case you didn't know, Massey is about that life.
Of this government. And I was actually listening to an audio book by Saifuddin Ammous called The Bitcoin Standard. And I'll warn anybody who wants to listen to that book, the first 80% of it is not about Bitcoin. It's about money and what is money, which I think is important to understanding Federal Reserve. And also, but he has to lay that down so he can explain what Bitcoin is. because you can't assume everybody knows what money was. And frankly, I learned some things or picked up some vocabulary that I didn't have about it there. And I was listening to that tape and I'm like, it is way past time to reintroduce a bill to end the Federal Reserve. And so I put it in the hopper and I thought, man, I may be the only one. Maybe I'll get 2 or 3 co-sponsors, but I don't care. This needs to be done. I got 24 co-sponsors. So the number of co-sponsors of the bill to end the Federal Reserve in 10 years has gone up 10x. Which is remarkable.
Yeah, that is no.
And the possibility of World War III is higher than ever, which is probably a good time to visit our new sponsor, Sat123. Because when cell service dies, life doesn't have to. Sat123 hooks you up with real satellite phones, Starlink kits, and rugged off-grid internet that works anywhere. Mountains, ocean, middle of nowhere, it doesn't matter. If you care about preparedness, freedom, and staying connected when it actually counts, go to sat123.com. That's sat123.com. And don't forget to use promo code SIMPLY for 15% off. No signal? No problem. Hope you guys enjoyed this one. Let us know what you think down below. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and give us a pamp by sharing the Sound Money Gospel. In the era of moral bankruptcy, it is vital to be a contrarian. Stack integrity. Love you guys. Hope you have a great weekend. Catch you next time. Peace.
If you prefer to go down with the ship, you.